Well, we're blessed to have Frank Blaisdell come and share with us today. Frank has been a part of this church for some time now, and though recently, and I asked him to join our board of trustees, and he almost immediately said yes, and he was at the first meeting and was readily volunteered to be the secretary and of that board, and we're very grateful for that, and we are thankful for his ministry among us. And I am heavily distracted tonight because Frank's got his computer up here with these beautiful pictures that are scrolling past me. He probably didn't mean to do that, but there's some big fish being caught. I just want you to know that, and some beautiful houses. But I've never had pictures scrolling before me like that, Frank. But I'm really glad to have Frank come and share with us tonight. Frank?
Well, thank you, Reverend Cliff, and good evening, everybody. When Reverend Cliff called me about 6 weeks ago, my first reaction was, that's Reverend Cliff. It's I could see the voice ID, the caller ID, and I get that feeling that I was sitting outside the principal's office back in grammar school, and I wonder what he wants, with me. And when he asked me to share my faith story, I said, yeah, I'd be happy to, but in all honesty, I should start out with saying, my name is Frank, and I'm an alcoholic. Hi, everybody. I've told my story over the years a few times, and it's pretty much my faith story, but I'm not going to go through a long list of what I did and what I didn't do and how I behaved and all that, because it's pretty much the same for all of us. But I will tell you what it was like for me growing up. The church was always in my life, not always voluntarily in my life, but I'll give you an example that I came from a small town in New Jersey, and my family had been there for just after the Revolutionary War, so for quite a while. Established in the local St. Luke's United Methodist Church, and at some point in time, probably my great-great-grandfather, or even his dad, the church was that old, there was a hierarchy of where you sat. So my family was big on telling me what I should be doing, but I'll be quite honest with you, the only time I saw my grandfather or my father in that church was when my sister got married and I was 16. My mother, however, was a Sunday school teacher at the church, and every Sunday, without fail, no matter how still I was or how quiet I was, she always managed to wake up on time and get my sister and I to Sunday school. As a matter of fact, I found today, this is my first Bible given to me, and in looking at the inscription, which I'll just take a minute to read, it says, "May God bless, protect, and guide you." Presented to Frank Blaisdell, September 1958. So I want to say that as a young man, through high school, I went to church and Sunday school, but because I was made to go. At the age of 16, I went off to a boarding school for a couple of years, and every Sunday there, I was assigned to a Methodist church to attend, and they didn't check attendance on the way in. They waited till the service was over and then checked attendance. So, got me. I went off to college, and church wasn't even a thought. Sundays were days to sleep in, relax, watch football, mess around with my buddies. Anything but anything but church. And it wasn't that I was against church or religion. I just didn't give it much of a thought. Let me say that God and Jesus were always in my head and part of my mind and thinking, usually when I was in trouble. I'd be asking for help. Please get me out of this, or, oh God, please don't tell me I actually did that. My behavior was suspect for a long time. And I came to understand, after quite a while that everything happens for a reason. It wasn't clear to me growing up. It wasn't clear to me as an active alcoholic. But it became clear after the miracle happened. One night, I was so lost. I had a wife, 3 beautiful daughters, a nice business, but I was empty inside, and I couldn't imagine living life the way I was living it anymore, and I couldn't imagine life without alcohol. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to turn. In a fit of fear, for lack of anything else, I left my family and wound up at my mother's home. And I just said, "Can I spend the night here tonight?" And being my mother, she said, "Of course." And she didn't ask a lot of questions. She knew there was some problems, and I spent the night there, and was the lowest I've ever been in my life. I wondered how I got where I got. That would all come later. But when I was at my lowest, I sincerely asked for God's help at that moment. And I can tell you, at that moment, I was touched by God. You will never convince me otherwise. From that moment on, the desire for alcohol, the insanity of how I was living was removed. I've never since had a desire to drink again. That's not saying that all the crazy behaviors were gone, but that particular desire not to drink was well taken care of. And to me, somebody who had, I like to say it's easy to stop drinking. I did it 100 times. That for me was the turning point, and I started my life anew. I guess at that moment, a few weeks ago, Reverend Cliff was talking about being born from above. Well, that was my moment. When I know I was touched by God and blessed, and the grace of God has saved me. I am here to tell you that I was one hardhead, and I'm still a hardhead. My beautiful wife, Lynn, will agree. We can talk about that another time. I would like to say thank you to Lynn for coming into my life. We've been married almost 21 years now, and it has been a wonderful experience. She has with her tonight, my mother-in-law, who is a wonderful woman and whose grandfather was a Methodist minister. So she feels like she's home right now. Lynn, on the other hand, is questioning whether she's in a state of grace or not, because she was raised Catholic by with her dad and mom, but she's a little concerned about our process here. No, I'm sorry, I'm getting off track. This is about my... Yeah, we take everybody. It's an open table. We love everybody, and there's plenty of grace here to go around. So that's what it was like. And then what happened was me being saved. And I'll be honest with you, AA wasn't on my radar, but as luck would have it, I don't believe there are any coincidences. One of my guys that I worked with was about a year and a half sober, and he dragged me off to a meeting, and where he introduced me to a bunch of guys that had good long-term sobriety, and they grabbed me and took me 2-3 times a day for about a year to meetings, and that's pretty much all I did, and that's what I needed to do. And one guy who I respected a great deal, had great sobriety, said to me when I had some questions was, "Buddy, the only thing you need to know about God is that you ain't it. And let's move on." And, there's those people that would say, "Dear Frank, we don't need your help today. Love God," That was me. I was the guy in control all the time. And the fact of the matter is I had control over nothing. An arrogant doormat, I guess, is how we would call ourselves. Life now is so much simpler. I have a beautiful family. Like I said, I have 3 daughters. I have 3 granddaughters and 1 due any day now. My wife, Lynn, has been an exceptional help to me, and what a blessing in my life. I have gratitude out the ears at times, and sometimes when I'm not feeling it, I need to remember how fortunate a man that I am, and how grateful I am that God touched me and gave me new life. I don't want to say I'm stymied, because I could probably go on for hours. I have enough notes here, for crying out loud. Being a member of a church was something that came about voluntarily after I'd gotten sober, and just as luck would have it, coincidence being that my 3 daughters needed a Sunday school to go to, so I took them to another local church. And one of the greeters there was one of my clients, and he welcomed me with open arms, and kind of like how I felt the first time I came here about a year and a half ago. I ran into some old friends who made me feel very much at home. If you had asked me a year and a half ago what's missing from my life, I would have told you a spiritual connection and a church. And I have it here, and I'm so very grateful for that. God has been with me through my whole life, but I just realized it when I got sober, and I'm never alone. Sometimes I feel, when I start feeling alone or sorry for myself, I'm able to remember to ask God for help, and that's a blessing. I've had a lot of, in my mind, I think a lot of difficult situations thrown at me, and managed to get through them all. The high bar for it could always be worse seems to have gotten raised on a continual basis. Had a few health issues that we've gotten through without any problems, and we're here today, and very grateful to be able to have this conversation with you. I'm at peace most of the time, and I know what to do when I'm not. I thank you all for listening to me, and appreciate you being here, and appreciate being a member of this church. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Frank.